Hey Addicts, welcome back to another TMNT video. I'm even dressed for the occasion. I got my turtle shirt on, which I love this shirt by the way. But yeah, so we're back for the IDW collection volume 2. If you didn't see, we have volume 1 video coverage on the channel, so you can go press the link. I can probably put it in the video here. But with that being said, we're gonna try to do a better job. This is the second take. My first take was an hour. It was super long. Well, it wasn't quite an hour, it was like 50 minutes, but if I do upload that, I'll link it here or in the description if you want more in-depth about the individual issues or the microseries or whatnot, but we're going to try to be a lot shorter than that for this video. So, with that being said, let me just shout out the edition itself. We're not going to take a look at it as in-depth as we did for the first one, but I really like this one. I love Splinter, so seeing him showcased for the second one is really cool. We get a really cool picture of him kind of sitting by his incense, maybe meditating or something like that, but I really dig it. One cool thing that they do for this is they changed the color of the bookmark to match, the color aesthetics. So like, for volume 1 here, it's got Raphael, so it's got a red bookmark tassel, and they do the same thing with Splinter. They got kind of like a grayish one to match his fur. But anyway, guys, so Volume 2 here collects the ongoing series issues 13 through 20. The Casey Jones, April O'Neil, Fugitoid, Krang, Baxter, Stockman Microseries one-shots, as well as the Secret History of the Foot Clan miniseries, which I think has 4 or 5 issues in it. So, off the top of my head, I believe that is the same amount, if not more, because let's see, there was 12 plus 1, 2, 4, 5. So that was 17 issues in the first volume, and in this one, you get 8, 9, 10, 12. Yeah, 17 again. Yeah, so it's the same amount. I just wanted to make sure there. Sorry, math's not the best, my strongest suit, I should say. But let me jump in here. So let me just start off by saying that the art, a lot better. I love the art so much more in this one than I did the first one. Not to say there isn't a few like weird things going on here and there with the art. I mean, starting off the bat, we get a look at the Casey Jones microseries one-shot. And overall, really do like the art. I think it's a major improvement over some of the other microseries one-shot ones. But, there is some weird times where like there's like one panel where Raphael looks like Chunk from the Goonies. So, take it or leave it. There's some things that are bound to, not suit your fancy, especially when they bounce around artists all the time. But overall, really thought it was an improvement, really did enjoy, and there is some bomb-ass panels with them fighting, or the covers do a fantastic job. I even like when Eastman does a few like variant art to the series in his own OG style. So that's one thing I wanted to mention right off the bat. But let's talk a little bit about the story that's showcased in some of these. So the microseries in this whole volume, I think pretty much all of them I loved. I absolutely loved them, and I liked them even more than some of the ones showcased in the first one. Now, that's not to say that they're better, because they focus on different things, different characters, so, level of enjoyment's going to depend between people. And honestly, even though I loved all of them in this one, you can definitely feel there's a definite kind of give and take to it, because in the first volume, we got some micro-series one-shots of each turtle, and I think that really helped kind of offset the lack of character depth that they sometimes showcase in the ongoing series, because in the ongoing series they're having to focus on the storylines, and so not all the time they get to reflect back to how a character's feeling, how a character's growing, maybe in subtle ways, maybe in little bits, but not as much as maybe some people would like. So the micro series one shots did a great job of kind of balancing that in the first one. In the second volume, because it deals with Casey and April, and then the villains, you don't get that much of a showcase on the depth of the Turtles, like I said, you still get moments of it, and I think there's enough in there that's pleasing, but there is a certain level of like, man, we didn't get as much of it. But that, I feel like, is probably the root cause of it, is because a lot of the micro-series one-shots are focusing on none of the Turtles. But they do kind of off-balance that, though, because with the Casey micro-shot one series, we do get some really good development, or, well, I shouldn't say in the micro-series of Casey, but because of the events that kicked off in the Casey issue, the ongoing series, I think it's like issue 13 and 14, really do have a good impact on Raphael, and I think it leads to a very heartwarming, and not only heartwarming, but a very organic or authentic connection that Splinter and Raphael are able to have, and I think it moves Raphael in a good direction, as well as, getting more of that, different side of Splinter that maybe not necessarily is always showcased, But with the Casey micro series, sorry, I keep going back, and I probably said Casey's micro series one shot like 50 times already. So I better just say what I want to say about that. So it has a bit more of a low scale feel to it, kind of focusing on just kind of like the scum of New York, the underbelly thugs. And I really like that because, that is kind of like, I don't want to say it's the core thing about TMNT, but I think it is one of like the big little things that we enjoy about the series, right? It's just them going after like the regular thugs and beating up waves after wave of, street gangs. So seeing that showcase, I think, was really cool, but it also is really nice because it harkens back to some of the information we got in the beginning of the series with Casey, and kind of a little bit we know about the promise he made to his mother on her deathbed, as well as the dynamic that Casey has with his father. And again, it really does a good job of segueing well into the ongoing issues. And I think that's probably why a lot of the micro-series one-shots in this volume I absolutely loved, is because not only do we get little insights about each character that is the main focus in that one-shot, but it also gives just a really clean transition between each of these types of stories that are told, from a multitude of different story, writers and stuff like that. And I think because of that, it leads it to feel less of like a bottle episode or like a bottle issue, and more so a side piece that can be looked at as just another issue in the ongoing series, So really dig that a lot. Casey's, I think it hits the ground running really well because it leads to some really good first entries to the ongoing series in this volume. Like I said, you get a little bit of that moment with Raphael and Splinter. You also get Casey kind of being adopted, or at least, the Turtles and Splinter telling him that he can stay with them, which is a really cool thing. We also get a few other things that I'm just going to skip over for the sake of time, but, there's a lot that they pack into their issues, and, a lot of, I would say, kind of mainstream comics just don't do anymore. So I love that not only are they able to have, a really compact and, diverse story bits kind of spread throughout there, but it's just, done really well. But getting on to the April micro series, hers is a little bit more, I want to say, quick. There's not a whole lot that goes on, but the things that do go on are important and do lead into the next big thing in the ongoing issues, with April kind of wanting to be able to pull her weight, I guess, in a sense. And she goes into the kind of espionage mode of being a spy. She's like, if I can't be a warrior, if I can't like fight on the battlegrounds necessarily, I will be the one that gathers information. And she does a good job of that. We see her infiltrating Stockman, getting some information that she didn't know, kind of trying to learn the scope of Stockman, retrieving a vial of ooze that they can later look at, which we haven't seen, come to fruition yet, but that's something that's planting a seed there, as well as harking back to one of the other Microseries one-shots with Donatello, but that sets up another villain Slash that goes into the next couple of issues alongside with the Turtles trying to find a new lair. In the I think it's issues 13 to 17 or it might be 13 to 16. I somebody can correct me down in the comments, as I'm sure people would be gladly to. But we get to see Stockman and Krang, kind of learning about, because of what Stockman's failures led to in the first volume, whether it be his own or just the ones associated with him, seeing how that's putting him in a different situation and what that's going to entail. Seeing more of Krang, seeing more of his master plan, what he's got in the works, and how that's going to, relate to other characters and other factions. Setting up that, as well as looking at the Foot Clan and seeing the kind of dynamic relationship and kind of the tension between Shredder and Karai. I think setting up Karai was a good move. They got some things with, Shredder having like a lack of faith in Karai and wanting to search out a new or better second in command, and kind of turning his sights to Leonardo, as that's probably familiar to some other people that have, either read or watched some of the other iterations. But I think it's really good, especially with the focus of Shredder and Karai, because in the first volume, if you've watched that, I think one of the points I made pretty clear was my disappointment in the first confrontation or the first run-in with Shredder between the Turtles and this, and him. I liked the Splinter and Shredder aspect, but the Turtles, when they came into play, I thought the Shredder and the Foot Clan in general just seemed a bit weak. So I like that in this volume they build them up properly, and I think they showcase what they truly can be or what they truly are. And I think because of that, correction, at least in my eyes, I think it's not only restored faith in this iteration Shredder, but also getting me super pumped to see what the author has, or I should say the two authors have in store for the Foot, and specifically Shredder, and just how big of a bad he's going to be later on. Shout out also to Krang, because he's a character that's much more menacing than some prior knowledge I've had in other iterations, and I'm really glad to see that Krang's not necessarily just a shadow to Shredder. He kind of seems like he's on the same level of bad, but just in two different fields. So I'm really digging that. But the other microseries we get that's of a good character is the Fugitive, or the Fugitive. No, we're not talking about that Harrison Ford movie. We're talking about the Fugitoid. The backstory is redone, and I really love the remix of this. It just leads to have such a more darker, gritty feel to it. I think because of new elements that they give Honeycutt, with a family and being attached to a war, and that their world being set in Dimension X, and having to obviously deal with Krang and his war in that dimension. I think it just leads to some of the tragedy to speak a little bit harder for the Fugitoid, and then also just the circumstances of how his robot worked, and then how his mind got trapped into the robot. I think also is one that just hits harder and is just much more depressing, So I like it a lot that they went a little bit darker with that, and I really did like kind of the master plan the Fugitoid or Honeycutt's able to come up with pitting two evils against each other to kind of get his revenge, because he doesn't want to see any innocents or good people die, so he recruits one evil to stop another, and just hopes that not only will his quote-unquote revenge come to be, but also that maybe he can take out two evils with one stone. So I really dig just the kind of thought process they give Honeycutt in this as well. And I'm really curious to see how that's going to play into the storyline going forward, because Krang really has, I guess, some plans in store for Honeycutt, and because we get the Fugitoid introduced so early on, that leads to issues 18 to 20, if I'm, again, not misremembering, with the Turtles getting caught up into a war on Neutrino in Dimension X, accidentally getting transported there, and, coming to meet and learn of Honeycutt and, gain some allies in Neutrino, but having that first confrontation with Krang. Just really cool. In between this, we get Karai setting out, moving into motion some elements that she's going to need in order to complete the mission Shredder tasked for, which is, to retrieve or recruit Leonardo. So, seeing that also played in the background is also really cool. There is more depth in this one, which I think is something, some people may be like, whatever. To me, I'm like, yes, give us more. I love the darker or more mature side of TMNT, so whenever they display that or showcase it, I want to give them props, because it's, I think, where the series really shines is when it does bounce back and forth between that. So, obviously there's some lightheartedness, that's showcased, and even, heartwarming in the series, but, when they do have those gritty, dark moments, or darker moments, I really want to shout it out. But in kind of getting near the end of this volume, we get the Krang Stockman Microseries. The Krang one's really cool. We get more history about not only the Utroms and kind of how their society worked, what was the accomplishments of them, but also kind of the motivations and what events led up to Krang being the Krang that we know of today, being, the conqueror of these different worlds and dimensions, trying to wage war, and seeing how he became that kind of ruthless leader, or at least warrior, and how that kind of, harkens back to, some other things in his past, whether that leads to, some of the ways that he holds himself or strives for, and seeing how that maybe stemmed from some of the relationship with his father, or just like the past things that he had to overcome. So, maybe because of like his race or whatever. And I really dig that too as well. I think that's a great setup, not only to see, give a little bit more of insight, because, Krang's interesting in the fact that, he's an alien that doesn't really look imposing, right? Or looks feeble or not able to do stuff. So having somebody that has that much of a imposing factor to them, but being, that thrown off by the initial appearance of him, I think, just a really cool way to, again, bring to some depth to that character, or just, make it a little bit more intriguing. The Stockman one is also really cool, how they set that up. Again, all of these connect. So, like, with the Krang miniseries, it kind of jumps off from stuff Karai did in the mainline issues, and it kind of goes back and forth between some of the aftermath of that, while Krang's kind of going through his mind about some of this stuff that's happened to him. But with Stockman, it's kind of taking place in between the issues, with him on Burnout Island, working on the Technodrome, and just seeing his schemingness. I like that there's a lot of things about Stockman that people have certain, maybe preconceived notions of what Stockman, or who Stockman is as a character. And I love that in this series, Stockman does showcase those traits, or does act that way, but it's more so a front, and we get to see a little bit more of his chess-minded view of things, being 3 or 4 steps ahead of people, trying to anticipate every move, trying to make sure that he has every countermeasure in play, that he can, make sure that he takes the win. And along with this, and seeing kind of his plans to work towards that goal, seeing a little bit of the backstory and how maybe connections with his father led him to be this way, or, you know, makes him kind of distasteful towards certain people that remind him of his father, or, you know, people that, you know, are seeking power. But I also like, too, that it gives Stockman kind of a more of, not a personality, but an individuality, I guess, in the sense that, you know, he's not just a follower, he's not just a minion of, like, the run-of-the-mill minion of one of these bigger bads, right? He's his own threat, he's his own supervillain in a sense, being his own big bad and working towards his own goal. And seeing that, you know, his motivations don't line up with Krang's, and how, you know, because Krang has a certain thing that he's wanting to achieve, and how, or I should say, what that means to Stockman, you know, being like a no-brainer of why he's like, yeah, I'm not for that, I need to do something about this, but something that benefits me, you know, and what can I get out of this because I'm already in this situation. So I really do like the dynamic they're playing with Stockman and setting him up to be probably one of those villains that, you know, you forget about or you're not going to see coming. So I again, like, Stockman's not one of my favorite villains, but because of what they're doing, you know, I can see, I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind. Maybe I'll really find him showcased, but I'm not gonna be, what would be the word? I'm not gonna be surprised when I do see people being really blown away by him, because I feel like they're setting him up to be somebody that you're gonna be like, oh shit. But at the very end of this, we do get the Secret History of the Foot Clan miniseries. That this has 4 or 5 issues in it, and it is by far my favorite part of this volume. It's really good. I think a few reasons why this kind of blew me away was that I was kind of expecting that we were going to get it fully based in feudal Japan, and you know, bouncing back and forth, kind of filling in the gaps between what we had learned before between Hamato Yoshi and Oroku Saki, kind of their dynamic that they had, and, you know, maybe filling in the gaps of a little bit before, a little bit after, you know, Hamato Yoshi's death, and, you know, how the Shredder came to be back and reincarnated, but seemingly in his same form, right? And then, you know, maybe I'll look at who started the clan, so maybe a little bit more of the masters of Splinter and even Oroku Saki's father. But it goes a step further than that, and it actually shows us who started the clan, and it being different than I thought they were going to go, and in a good way. But not only that, but also having a storyline that's going on in the main present line, or I'm sorry, excuse me, I said that really weird. The present in the ongoing issues, right? And it's just really nice because we get the Turtles learning about this guy who knows some history. I guess he's kind of like a history buff, or for lack of a better term, archaeologist. You know, he's finding certain things about these old clans, and he stumbles across stuff about the Foot. So they go to this seminar, they learn this information, they're thinking, we need to figure out what he knows. Maybe he knows something that can, you know, give us some insight about the Shredder and how, you know, he got this power, right? And, you know, seeing that the Shredder and the Foot Clan are one step ahead of them, or at least on track with the Turtles' mindset, sending Karai, trying to get, you know, having her try to recruit Miller, and then that ensuing this kind of chase and battle to not only get Miller, but also get a book that has this information in it, right? So you get some really cool action in the present, as well as, you know, some, you know, kind of like insight to the Shredder in the present, but also seeing kind of the history. I think it's more so the history of Shredder than it is the Foot Clan. But obviously it's showcasing more than just Oroku Saki and, you know, the founder of the clan, Takashi Tatsu. And but there's some really cool revelations. I won't spoil everything here, but seeing kind of the revelation of who the Shredder really is, seeing a potential ally of the Foot, or at least the leader of the Foot that has been gone for centuries but could come back possibly, seeing that set up, seeing just the other element in play, won't ruin it, but when you see a certain medicine, at least I know when I saw a certain medicine being administered, I was like, holy shit, they're making this connection, and I'm probably gonna love it. And I ended up loving it a lot. But yeah, it's got a real good, like, almost origin story for a villain vibe to it, and I think it really capitalizes, or at least execute really well, bringing back up the menacing factor of the Shredder and setting him to be, you know, the mainline villain that's going to have a punch. So really looking forward to that. Really like what they did with the reincarnation aspect. There's a few things that the Turtles not only learn about the Shredder that makes him a bit more imposing, or a threat that seemingly maybe won't be able to be put down so easily, but also things that, because of their past lives, they have kind of this new superpower or ability, or at least one of them does, and, you know, the possibilities of what that might entail for the rest of them, you know, later on. But yeah, like I said, in the first volume, I liked the reincarnation idea. I wasn't like full-heartedly bought into it, because I was like, I want to see what the limitation, or like the rules they put on the reincarnation bit. I want to see, you know, how they play on it. And after this volume, I'm digging it a lot. I'm like, yes, I think they're doing it all how at least in my mind it should be, or at least in a way that I really dig. And I think every issue in this I loved. I think, you know, there's some of the mainline issues, you know, the issues in the main ongoing series. Sorry, it's a mouthful to how to differentiate that, but, you know, obviously some of them are a little bit slower, or, you know, it's like one drawn out thing, or drawn out, like for instance with the conflict on Neutrino, that's set in like 3 or 4 issues. So, you know, each individual issue, if you looked at just one issue individually, you're probably gonna be like, yeah, that was all right. You know, there was some stuff in there. It flows a lot better, obviously, when you're reading it all in one sitting, or, you know, you have all of it in front of you. So I think, to me, that leads me to have maybe a different opinion as if I was reading it issue by issue. But yeah, overall, really digged it. Again, less of a showcase of the Turtles specifically, I would say, which is, you know, a little bit of a downer. But overall, I think they hit everything else that they set out to do, and I really digged a lot, if not most, actually definitely most of what I read. So hats off to them. Art, again, is something that, you know, I feel like it's gonna vary book by book, but I did like a lot of the stuff. So with that being said, this is an F.F.A. Really highly recommend the second volume. I have other volumes already ordered and on their way, so we will tackle those as they come in. But anyway, guys, I will see you next video, and as always, have a good day. Peace.